Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. Well, we're only 9 days into the new year, which means that a lot of us haven't yet had a chance to break the New Year's resolutions that we made for 2014. Some of us have, but some of us are hanging on by our fingertips. So I was kind of thinking about this, and I thought to myself, gee, maybe rather than make resolutions for myself, what I'd really like to do is make resolutions for everybody else, right? I mean, maybe they don't have even as much chances of lasting as the resolutions I make for myself, but what the heck? This is sort of my if I ruled the world list. Now, let me tell you something, these 12 things, this is by no means a complete list, but it's just the stuff that's on my mind right now. And I want to share it with you. I reserve the right to add to it or amend it down the road. So, rule number 1. Retailers should not be allowed to post signs that say coming soon until 1 month before they actually open that store. Coming soon means coming soon. You don't want to say it if you have a lot longer to wait. Number 2, in markets where the stores actually are on the sidewalk, retailers or their landlords should be required to shovel the snow and shovel it quickly. I'm thinking that within 2 hours of the time the snowfall has stopped or within 4 hours of when sunrise has taken place, okay? Even if that's even while the snow is still falling. You wait any longer, and I'm thinking big financial penalties and maybe even jail time. You can tell who slipped on the snow sometime in the last couple of weeks. Number 3, companies or buildings that have public-facing clocks, they are required to make sure that the clocks have the right time on them. And basically, here's the deal. I mean, if the clock breaks or runs out of battery power or loses electricity or there's daylight savings time, you got 48 hours to get it right. You don't fix the clock and get the time right within 48 hours, penalties, financial, jail time. I have no problem with that at all. Number 4, if you have a charity and somebody donates money to your charity, don't send them an email 2 weeks later saying, we'd like some more money from you. Wait an appropriate time. You already got a check. If somebody donates, and by that somebody I mean me, give me some time before you ask me for more money. I think that just seems appropriate to me. Number 5, the next Star Trek movie has to have a completely original plot. No characters, no references, no plot points from any of the previous Star Trek movies or from any of the TV series. You got to do something original. Go where no one has gone before. Now, I know this seems like a sort of funny public policy pronouncement on my part, but quite frankly, there was just a North Carolina town councilman who decided to resign from his post, and he did it with a letter that was written completely in Klingon. So apparently we do have some kind of merging of fictional and real worlds. And besides, I can't help but get something from Star Trek into any place I can. Let's see, number 6, Michael Sansolo had a piece the other day in which he noted that something like close to 20% of Americans believe that the sun rotates around the earth. Now listen, I'm normally a pretty inclusive guy. I think everybody should be involved, but I have no problem saying that if you believe that the sun revolves around the earth, you don't get to vote. I think that's a pretty good rule. I'm not even sure you should be allowed outside without an escort, but that's a different issue. Let's see, number 7, every company should have an ombudsman. Someone who has as his or her responsibility, they sit in the meetings where the decisions are being made, they listen to what everybody says, and then it is their job, because they didn't drink the Kool-Aid, to look at everybody in that meeting and say, what the hell are you people thinking about? Somebody who just is removed enough, has enough objectivity to say, you guys aren't thinking about the big picture. You aren't thinking about how this is going to play. You aren't thinking about anything other than the bubble that you have constructed for yourselves. Every company should be required to have that. Number 8, New York should be required to have airports that are not as good as or worse than those in third world countries. Simple. Okay, and anybody who's flown in and out of LaGuardia or Kennedy knows exactly what I'm talking about. Number 9, one Sunday every year, everybody in the country should be required to turn off their cell phones, tablet computers, everything. If it's a tech device that allows you to be in communication with everybody else around you, one Sunday a year, everybody has to turn it off just for a day. Number 10, in Major League Baseball, from this time forward, if you are found using performance-enhancing drugs, you lose an entire season's worth of games. You are suspended for 162 games. You get caught a second time, you're out of the game forever, and any record you might have accumulated, it is immediately struck from the record books. End of discussion, no negotiation. That's it. Number 11, every public official, mostly at the national level, but I'd be willing to put this down into local levels as well. Every public official should be required once a year, as a matter of the oath of office that they take, to come up with a big idea for how they're going to make the country better. Now, I'm not talking about something abstract like we should go to Mars. And I'm not talking about ideas that just are focused on how we spend money or how we save money. I'm talking about a big idea that will demonstrably make the country better. And then you're required to put it into the form of legislation that can't be any longer than 5 pages long, and you're required to forge compromises that get the big idea passed. Very simple. I think the founders would have absolutely no problem with that. And number 12, all retailers should be required, when they put signs in their stores, to make sure that the words in those signs are spelled correctly and that you use the appropriate words. Okay, now, I'm sorry, illiteracy in the service of commerce is not a positive character trait. Now, some of you may point out that occasionally I make spelling mistakes here on Morning News Beat, and I cop to that. It's absolutely true, which is part of the reason I'm not saying there should be jail time or major fines on this particular one. But the thing is, I work without a net, and most retailers are not working with the kind of speed that I necessarily have to. They have time to make sure they use the right word. And besides, you know something? If I'm going to make these rules, I'm going to be just like the guys in Washington. I may make the rules, but I don't have to follow them. Anyway, that's my first 12. I'll have more in the future. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this Thursday morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.